Good evening, everybody, and welcome to this evening's session on your complete guide to applying to grammar schools. First and foremost, thank you all so much for your patience this evening. I'm so sorry for the technical difficulties that we've been experiencing. Thank you so much for those of you who stayed on Facebook and those of you who've joined us now on Zoom. We're really happy to have you, and I'm so sorry for the inconvenience that this must have caused. We can now jump in to my area of expertise, which is applying to grammar schools. So yes, let's dive in. A little bit about myself before we get started. I have worked in 11 plus for over a decade now. So I began my career as a private tutor supporting students with the 11 plus in the wider London area. I then started supporting students across the UK, so further up north in the Midlands, and also down south as well. So I've now got a huge amount of experience supporting students across the United Kingdom. After working as a private tutor for a number of years, I then started working with Atom in 2020 and worked really closely with our brilliant in-house teachers, our fantastic product designers, and brilliant engineers to create a platform that would really support parents and kids in what we know is a really crucial stage in your academic career. This evening's session will give you everything that you need to know when preparing for grammar schools and how to best support your children. So what we'll be covering this evening, we'll be looking at key information about the 11 plus process, so key dates and information that you need to know if your child is going to be sitting the 11 plus in September. We'll then be looking at what your child will be tested on. Now, we'll be looking at this at a high level in this evening session, and then on Thursday, we'll be holding another evening's webinar that focuses on a little bit more granularity on the specific question types and topics your child will see in a grammar school examination. We'll then be looking at how to maximise your child's preparation. So the steps that you can take this year to really stretch and challenge your child and ensure they're feeling incredibly confident ahead of September. And then we'll be looking at how and when to use mock tests. Mock tests are a fantastic feature that can help ensure that your child is feeling really confident ahead of their examinations, but they need to be used in a particular way. So I'll be going through the top things that you need to know when using mock tests. So first of all, let's take a look at the 11 plus process. So I know all of you are thinking seriously about preparing for grammar schools. The next couple of slides will be answering some frequently asked questions that we get from parents up until the 11 plus. So the first thing that's worth noting is that grammar schools are selective, state-funded schools. So there are no fees associated with grammar schools, but they are selective. Students will need to sit an examination in order to gain entry to these schools. Now, if you're thinking about applying to a grammar school or a number of grammar schools, we would really recommend attending an open day. As is the case with any school, different schools have different strengths, different cultures and ethos. So it's a really good idea to go around a school, meet the teachers, meet the admissions teams. It's a great opportunity for you to ask questions. It's also a really fantastic opportunity for your child to ask questions as well, to really get a feel for if that school feels like the right place for them, where they could be spending the next 5 to 7 years of their academic career. It's worth noting that grammar schools are typically all oversubscribed and will then use an admissions criteria to determine who is offered a place. Now, we'll be delving into this in a little bit more detail later because one stage is, of course, the 11 plus examinations, but grammar schools do also have additional admissions criteria that they use to offer places after the 11 plus has been taken. So this is really, really crucial information that you need to know as a parent, which we'll dive into a little bit later. Finally, and this is really important, if your child is applying for schools in different local authorities, they will need to sit different tests. For example, if your child is going to be sitting the Kent test and looking at schools in Kent, but also some schools in South London, they will need to apply, they'll need to sit multiple tests for those specific local authorities, and you will need to register with both local authorities as well in order to ensure that they can sit the test. So yes, the next important point, if you wish your child to sit the 11 plus, you will need to register. Your child will not be automatically enrolled into the 11 plus. You'll need to register correctly in order to ensure your child can take that test. Now, registration dates do differ from school to school and authority to authority, so do check the admissions pages of any schools or boroughs that you may be looking at, because they do change. Some authorities open up their registration dates as early as April, some are a little bit later, so do keep your eyes peeled on admission sites and get those dates in your diary nice and early. And yes, finally, you will need to register for each test you would like your child to take. So make sure that that's all registered, all sorted well ahead of the closure of the application process, which is typically before the end of the summer term. Again, you want to keep those dates in your diaries to make sure you don't miss them. So sitting the 11 plus. Now, grammar school 11 plus examinations take place in September of year 6. They can start as early as the first weekend of September and can take place throughout the month. The reason for this is because you will need your 11 plus results in order to then fill in your common application form. Now, your child will sit the 11 plus either in an exam hall or at your child's primary school. This does change again from local authority to local authority, but it can also be the case if you are applying for grammar schools outside of your local area, it's likely that your child will then take that test in an exam hall. Again, all of that information will be specified once you register to take the test in the spring or summer term. Now, I know that all of you are going to be preparing for grammar schools, and it's important to note that your child's tests will be on paper. Atom has a huge amount of resource available to support your child's preparation for paper tests, including unlimited, unique, downloadable tests. I'll be showing you how to make the most of these a little bit later on, but it's crucial that you're starting to think about how you can incorporate paper practice into the work that you're doing now to ensure that your child is fully prepared for September. Now, when your child is taking the 11 plus, they will be asked to bring a clear pencil case with pencils and rubbers. And it's worth noting that the tests can take up to 3 hours to complete. So we would always recommend packing a snack and a clear bottle of water to make sure that your child has lots of energy to keep them going until the end of the test. So once your child has completed the 11 plus, you will have a score shared with you. These results will be shared typically at the end of September or the beginning of October, so that you can then make a really informed decision about which schools you choose when you fill out your common application form. Now, your child's score when they complete the 11 plus will be determined based on their accuracy within the test, so the number of questions that they answer, the number of questions they answer correctly, and will then be standardized by age. Now, what this means is it will standardize the score based on how your child performed in comparison to students who completed the same test, and will also be standardized based on your child's age. Now, the reason for this is because in year 5 or year 6, as they're sitting the test at the beginning of year 6, children are still incredibly young, and there can be a huge amount of time. It's a huge amount of time between children who are born in kind of September and October and those who are born in August. Therefore, you can expect that if your child is a summer baby, if they performed in exactly the same way as a student born in September, they would receive a couple of additional standardized age score marks after completing the test. This is to ensure that all students are considered on a level playing field when completing the 11 plus. Now, when you receive your results, again, it will be in a standardized age format. It may be that you will receive a breakdown of how your child performed in each test that they completed, and they will then receive an overall score. On average, a score of 100 would be average when achieving a standardized age score in the 11 plus, and a score of 142 is typically the highest score your child can achieve. Now, these scores can then be kind of used in different ways depending on the borough or council that you're in. So it is worth taking a look at the specific admissions criteria and results pages for the schools that you're applying to. The reason for this is that some schools will kind of provide your child with 4 separate scores for each subject that they've been assessed in. In other counties and boroughs, your child may receive weighted scores for different subjects, and the score may therefore be, the overall score may be larger than 142. So it's definitely worth taking a look at the admission site for the specific borough or area that you're applying to, as there'll be an explainer on how the scores are calculated. You can also attend one of our regional specific sessions that we hold throughout the year, as we provide in-depth guidance on how standardised age scores are calculated. So after your child has completed the 11 plus, you will receive their results at the end of September or the beginning of October. This will allow you to make an informed decision when filling out the Common Application Form, or CAF, at the end of October. It's important to note that passing the 11 plus does not guarantee your child a place at their target school. So a lot of schools or councils will have a pass mark for the 11 plus. However, a huge number of students do pass the 11 plus, but because of the specific admissions criteria for certain schools, may not gain entry to that school. I'll come on to this in a bit more detail later, but it is really, really important that you really do review the admissions pages for any schools that you're considering, so you have a really good idea of what the admissions criteria is. So even if your child does pass the 11 plus, you know, you have a realistic idea of whether or not your child would be offered that place if you submit it as a target school in October. Which brings us on to awarding places. Now, all UK grammar schools are oversubscribed, which means that places are awarded based on a school's unique admissions criteria. Now, this can include performance in the 11 plus examination. So schools will typically only accept students who have passed the 11 plus, so that threshold that has been set, or the number of students who've performed at a certain level of ability in that given year. They will then look at the distance between students who've passed the 11 plus from the school itself. So this is typically when schools will be talking about catchment areas. Places will often be given to students who live closest to the school. Some places may also be prioritised for students who are eligible for free school meals. Also for children who are in local authority care or were previously in local authority care. Some places can be awarded or prioritised to students who have siblings who are already attending the school, and also children of teachers at the school, typically children of teachers who've worked at a school for over 2 years. Now, again, every UK grammar school will specify what their unique admissions criteria is, and this can typically be viewed on the admissions page for each school. So you can look at that well ahead of when your child completes the test in September. Now, the Common Application Form is where you will register interest in the schools that you would like to attend in Year 7. Now, once you've received your results, you must complete the Common Application Form by the end of October. Applications will open in September, but you want to wait until you've received your child's 11 plus results. Now, when you fill in the Common Application Form, schools must be listed in order of preference. And again, make the most of all of the options that you have in order to maximise the chance of securing a place at one of your preferred schools. Now, we strongly advise checking your target school admissions criteria before you complete that Common Application Form. So that's a high-level overview of the process up until the 11 plus, kind of dates that you need to know, things that you need to be worried about after your child completes the test. So we can now take a look at the topics and skills that your child will be assessed on in the 11 plus itself. So if your child is sitting a grammar school examination, the likelihood is that they will be assessed on English, maths, verbal reasoning, or non-verbal reasoning. Now, This can differ from region to region. Some regions only attest on English and maths. Some will only test on reasoning. And again, this will be specified on the admissions pages for any schools that you're preparing for. Equally, if you're using Atom Learning already and you've submitted your child's target school, all of this will already be mapped out for you in your child's learning plan. So you're only focusing on the specific topics and subjects that your child will be assessed on. Now, in English and maths, it is worth noting that your child, even though they'll be sitting the test in year 6, at the beginning of year 6, they will be assessed on the most challenging learning objectives in English and maths. The reason for this is because, again, the 11 plus is incredibly competitive, and because it is so oversubscribed, the assessments, the examinations will test the most challenging topics in the Key Stage 2 national curriculum. So for that reason, it is really, really crucial that you're using Year 5 to make sure that your child is getting ahead. You're supporting them with areas of difficulty, but really you want to be building their confidence with the most challenging learning objectives at a Key Stage 2 level. Verbal reasoning will typically look at reasoning using words, letters, and numbers. There are some kind of algebraic formulas and number-based codes in verbal reasoning. And then in non-verbal reasoning, your child will be looking at how they can make connections, how they can kind of code break and keep patterns going with images, shapes, and codes as well. Now, if your child is sitting a grammar school assessment, the likelihood is that they will be sitting a GL assessment. Now, the majority of grammar schools in the United Kingdom, their examinations are written by GL, Granada Learning Assessments. Again, they can test English, maths and reasoning, and English and maths up to a year 6 level, but it can differ from school to school. So do check your child's admissions pages, the school's admissions pages, or take a look at our fantastic parent blog where we have a really in-depth guide on each school and each county in the United Kingdom and which subjects your child will be assessed on. It is worth noting that if your child is sitting a grammar school examination, which is written by GL, all questions will be multiple choice. Now, what is really important with a GL assessment is that your child will be given a booklet, and they will also, a question booklet, and they will also have an answer booklet, which got this right here. So the question booklet that your child sees is where they will have their comprehension activities, where they will see all of the questions that they will be assessed on within the 11 plus examination, and it's where they can show all of their working out. Now, the answer booklet is where they need to put all of their answers. And this may seem silly, but it's certainly the format and the thing that kids tend to find most difficult under test conditions, because the likelihood is that they haven't seen an answer sheet like that in any test that they've completed in school. Now, it is absolutely crucial that when your child is completing the GL test, that all of their answers are on the answer booklet. The reason for that is because the answer booklet is going to be marked by a computer. So any answers, anything that's written on their question booklet is not going to be picked up. So it's absolutely integral that between now and September, your child is regularly practicing using one of these answer sheets to ensure that nothing is a surprise when it comes to test day. So it's vital that when they are submitting their answer, they are marking it with a single horizontal line next to each answer on the answer booklet. Your child should not be circling their answer, they shouldn't be ticking an answer, and if they change their mind, they need to make sure that it's rubbed out as clearly as possible. And none of their answers should be in the question booklet because it will not be marked. Your child should use their question paper to work out their answers. And it's also vital to note that when your child is sitting a GL test, they will have a couple of questions to help kind of build their confidence. There'll be some example questions to show them what is going to be expected of them when they're working through the test. Now, for those of you using Atom, hopefully you're already really familiar with the question types and there won't be any surprises on test day, but it's important that your child isn't wasting any time with those example questions because there aren't any marks to be earned. They should be focusing all their time and attention on those questions that will be marked in the real test. And those will be marked really, really clearly in the question booklet and also in the answer booklet as well. Now, there are 4 schools in the United Kingdom that use Future Stories Community Enterprise. So Chelmsford County High School for Girls, Colleton Grammar School, Heckmondike Grammar School and Reading School. Now, Future Stories Community Enterprise uses a mixture of multiple choice questions, free text questions, and also creative writing. And children will only be assessed up to Year 5 learning objectives in English and maths. That being said, your child will see some deeper reasoning questions, certainly in maths, that do draw upon multiple areas of the Year 5 syllabus. So it's still really, really important that you're building your child's confidence, not only with those learning objectives that are covered in Year 5, but also crucially, kind of how to solve more complex reasoning problems as well. Finally, most grammar schools in the United Kingdom only have one assessment, which takes place in September, but some schools do have second round assessments. So Henrietta Barnett School, all 5 fully selective grammar schools in Sutton, Tiffin School, Tiffin Girls School, and St Olave's Grammar School all use second stage assessments as part of their total admissions process for those schools. Now, again, we've kind of got over the 3 different tests that your child can expect from the grammar school process. All of this information is mapped out really, really clearly on our parent blog. You can search for whichever schools you're preparing for, and there is an in-depth guide on the subjects, the format, and how you can prepare for that specific school. So if you are preparing for a number of schools and you want to make sure that you know the registration dates, key information, do take a look as there's lots of really valuable information on there. Now, let's take a look at how you can maximise your child's preparation well ahead of September. So, first of all, the most crucial thing is building subject mastery. So, again, your child may be tested on Year 6 curriculum in English and maths. They may also be tested in verbal and non-verbal reasoning. I think the mistake that I see most frequently, kind of year after year, is that parents will go straight to mock tests and complete lots and lots of questions under test conditions. Whereas actually the most important thing that you need to do at this point in your child's test preparation is really build their confidence with the subjects and the specific question types they're going to see under test conditions. They need to be able to practice these questions, build their confidence in their own time, really ensure that they understand exactly what the question's asking them to do, make a couple of mistakes, learn from those mistakes, so that they can then feel really, really confident when they see those questions under test conditions. Now, Atom Home does this in a really bespoke way. So when you register for Atom Home, you can submit your child's target school and your child can then work through the specific question types that they'll be assessed on when they're being tested for that specific school. Now, the great thing about Atom is that the questions are fully adaptive, so you can access hundreds of thousands of questions for your child's target school, but our algorithm will quickly identify the key concepts that your child is finding difficult and reintroduce those concepts. Your child has plenty of time to revise them and really build confidence ahead of September. Now, the second thing that's really important to note is that it's important that you introduce your child to new and challenging concepts at a level that is suitable for them. Again, kind of an example of this is if you were taking a driving test, you're not going to be put straight into a car and do that test immediately. You need to have lots of opportunity to practice, kind of build your confidence, start at a level that's suitable for you and work your way up. Now, Atom's algorithm does this every step of the way. So it's what we call scaffolding learning. And typically, scaffolding learning is what your child will see at school, and they'll be introduced to an easy concept first, and they'll build their knowledge over time, which is what Atom does as well. Your child is only going to be confident under test conditions if they've had the opportunity to fill in any knowledge gaps they may have with those easier questions before they start tackling those really, really difficult ones that they'll see in the real test. When you're practicing at your child's own pace and kind of moving their understanding up gradually, this is when you'll kind of really get them to a place in September where they're feeling 100% confident and they can really perform to the best of their abilities under test conditions. Now, what's also important about Atom is that we introduce questions at a suitable level of difficulty, and again, that will adjust accordingly. So if your child is really flying in maths and they're working well above expectations, Atom's algorithm will very quickly stretch and challenge them and ensure them that they're seeing the most difficult questions. Because if they are working at that really high level, we want to maintain that and ensure that they are able to kind of stay stretched and challenged, but they stay confident, maintain that fluency when they're sitting the real examination. But we will make sure that they are kind of introduced to new and challenging concepts and any knowledge gaps are filled in slowly to make sure that they're always getting balanced support, they're always making progress, but at a pace that's suitable for them, so they're never getting demotivated. Now, your child will likely need support with challenging concepts. Again, working in 11 plus tuition and support for over 10 years, I've worked with hundreds of families who've tried to do kind of sit down and work through the questions with their child. And that poses lots and lots of different challenges, whether it's the fact that it was years since you sat the 11 plus, or you haven't got a clue on how to support a child with non-verbal reasoning. We are here to help. So when your child is working through their tailored exam prep plan on Atom, they can have access to a huge amount of teacher written videos and help sheets. These are attached to every single question. So if your child does get stuck with a new or difficult concept, then they can use one of these brilliant help sheets to kind of guide them with their working out, fill in that confidence gap so they can then apply their knowledge really confidently. These videos and help sheets can be used to check answers, check reasoning, or give them an introduction to a concept that may be brand new. So you as a parent can feel really, really confident that your child is not only covering the full breadth of the curriculum that they'll be tested on the 11 plus, but they'll be given a guide, a helping hand from experts who have years of experience in the 11 plus to make sure that your child is picking up those concepts as quickly as possible. Now, between now and September, it's important that you're planning your child's revision to ensure that they remain engaged and that they are motivated with their 11 plus preparation. Now, there is a lot of curriculum to cover between now and September, so it's important that your child maintains good habits and that you maintain regular practice between now and September. For those of you who may be just getting started with 11 plus preparation, we typically recommend that students do about 2 to 2.5 hours of work each week. This will ensure that they not only cover the full breadth of the syllabus that they'll be assessed on kind of by the end of the spring term, but will also ensure that there is plenty of time between now and September that they can revise areas of difficulty and really build their confidence to make sure that they kind of can perform to the best of their ability come September. It's important that when your child is practicing, that they are learning in shorter chunks. Your child is going to retain so much more information and be able to retain the skills that they're learning if they're working in 30-minute bursts. It's going to be much more valuable for your child if they're doing 30 minutes on a Monday, 30 minutes on a Wednesday, than kind of an hour after school on a Tuesday. Spread that work across the week. Make sure you've got rest days where there's time for them to play or invest time in any of their hobbies or interests to make sure that they stay motivated while still maintaining that regular practice that will really lead to success and confidence in September. Now, Something that I know is hugely important to parents while preparing for the 11 plus is really understanding how your child is progressing. And if they are getting to a position, if they're in a position where they can really feel successful and kind of achieve successful results in the 11 plus. Now, with Atom, you have a huge amount of progress data at your fingertips that allows you to accelerate your child's progress and really understand how they're performing. So, via your parent account, you can see your child's progress through the curriculum. So, you can see how much they've covered and how much is left to go. You can also see how your child is performing in comparison to students who are preparing for the same test. You can see this broken down by subject, so you can clearly see which subject you may wish to focus more revision time on. You can see this just here on the right-hand side, so the performance comparison table. So you can clearly see your child's performance in that blue line, and then the performance of students preparing for the same school. So again, every step of the way, Atom has a huge amount of data to make sure that you feel really, really confident and can make really clear decisions about your child's 11 plus preparation. Now, as you're learning more about your child's progress and you can start to see perhaps some of the topics they're doing very well in and those that they're finding more difficult, you'll want to start setting extra interventions that will really build your child's confidence with areas of difficulty. So with Atom, you can set adaptive bespoke activities that focus on the specific areas that your child is finding difficult. Set activities that focus on one specific skill at a time, because this will really allow your child to kind of really get stuck into a very specific topic and build their confidence and allow them the opportunity to apply their skill really confidently. It's going to be so much more beneficial for your child's long-term learning and mastery if they're doing 10 questions on multiplying fractions than if they're doing 10 questions on 10 different topics in the maths curriculum. Under test conditions and in September, they will be context switching, so moving from one question type to another, but that context switching is not going to be the most valuable way to support your child's learning at this point in their preparation. Focus on one topic at a time to really ensure your child can really build their confidence and they know exactly what the question is asking them to do. Now, at this stage in your child's prep, we'd recommend targeting 2 to 3 areas of difficulty each week to make sure that your child is regularly revising areas of difficulty. And in the summer term, building that up to 5 or 6 per week. This again, when you get to the summer term and your child has covered the full breadth of the curriculum and what they'll be tested on in the 11 plus, it's at this point that you want to kind of move your time a little bit more towards revising those areas of difficulty to really refine and kind of make sure that your child is getting to the level that they need to be working at by the time they sit the 11 plus, in order to ensure that they're fully confident by September. So now let's take a look at how and when to use mock tests. Now, mock tests are a hugely valuable resource and a really integral part of your child's 11 plus preparation. Now, one of the most common misconceptions is that repeated mock tests is the best way to revise for an upcoming examination, but that is not the case. Mock tests are only as valuable as the revision that follows and also precedes. Again, if you take a look, I'm sure that your child has done lots of spelling tests at school. If your child achieved 50% in a spelling test, if they then did the same test the next day, unless they've done any practice or filled in any knowledge gaps that they might have had, practiced, revised, they're not going to see a significant change in their score. And the same is the case for 11 plus. If you're just doing lots and lots of mock tests, you're just going to continue to see what your child does and doesn't know. It's important that between every mock test your child is completing, there is time made for revision, for practice, that is going to really accelerate their progress. And that is what will have the most meaningful impact on your child's mock test scores and performance. Now, mock tests are an important part of test preparation. Again, mock tests are a great way of ensuring that your child knows exactly what to expect when they sit the real examination. Will mean that they go into that test feeling really confident. But for you as a parent, they're also a great way to track progress and again, identify additional areas of difficulty that you may wish to practice further. Now, at this point in your child's preparation, if your child is in year 4 or year 5, you should really be completing 1 or 2 mock tests per month, no more than that. The majority of your child's prep should be focused on practice and really building confidence with the question types that your child will see under test conditions. Only from the summer term and really kind of the final 6 to 8 weeks, before your child's test, should you increase to 1 to 2 mock tests per week. Now, this is because the closer you get to your child's examination and you've really built your child's kind of mastery of what's expected of them within that test, it's only in those final few weeks that you really want to then be refining your child's exam technique and again, kind of targeting those last few areas of difficulty before the real examination. Now, Atom provides parents with hundreds of downloadable 11 plus paper tests for all UK grammar schools. Now, what I mean by downloadable paper tests is that with a click of a button, you can download a unique test that mirrors the difficulty and specific question types that your child will see in the 11 plus test they'll be taking in September. You can then download another test the next day and the questions will be completely different, allowing for kind of unlimited practice to make sure that your child really has every opportunity to build their confidence ahead of September. Atom's paper tests, like I say, mirror the difficulty and the structure of the real examination, so there are no surprises. And again, once your child completes a test, it allows for unlimited practice. So another version of the same test can then be downloaded. So there's a huge amount of resource that you can access with Atom Home. Now, we would recommend completing mock tests on paper since your child will be completing a test on paper, but you can with Atom Home also complete tests online. Now, like I say, these tests are a great opportunity to perfect exam technique, build test confidence, and for you as a parent, after each test, you'll receive a standardized age score and transcript. So you have a good idea of how your child is performing in comparison to students who have completed the exact same test, and also identify areas of difficulty to help build your child's confidence further. Now, some top tips for completing mock tests at home. Now, all mock tests should be completed under exam conditions. Again, mock tests are a great opportunity to build your child's confidence so they know what to expect and for you to track progress. You're not going to be able to do this if they've got help sheets or YouTube videos or guides next to them. So there should be no distractions and they should use the paper tests in the same way that they'll be used in the exam hall. And again, the advantage to using the downloadable test that you can use on Atom is that you will then be able to get one of these practice answer sheets. So your child isn't just building confidence with the questions they'll see under test conditions, also the specific format that they'll be tested on as well. Now, encourage your child to read the questions and instructions carefully. The instructions are crucial because, again, when your child's sitting a grammar school test, there will be individual sections and individual timed areas in each test. So read those instructions carefully, again, so it really mirrors the real test experience. Use the full time limit and make sure that your child has a pen and paper for working out. This is crucial. It's a great opportunity to make sure that your child is using their time wisely and knows it is kind of operating in a way that they'll be expected to on the real test day itself. Now, when your child has completed a test, whether it's a paper test or an online test, you will receive a fantastic transcript that goes into a huge amount of depth on your child's performance within that test. We'd always recommend taking 10 to 15 minutes to go through that transcript with your child, discussing corrections, discussing areas of difficulty, picking out areas that you want to practice further. And again, looking at that standardized age score. Again, if your child is completing a mock test every month, that standardized age score is a really good marker of progress. And you want to keep that at the forefront of your mind alongside looking at those specific areas of difficulty you may wish to build confidence in as well. I think it is absolutely crucial that you're taking that 10 to 15 minutes at the end of each test. Don't wait a day. It's going to be a much more valuable experience if you're sitting down and working through it with your child than if you're waiting kind of 2 or 3 days to go through it with them. It's also worth agreeing the practices you're going to do afterwards. This builds autonomy and also responsibility for learning, and your child is going to be so much more bought in to the process if they've discussed it with you beforehand. So now let's take a look at Atom Home and all the brilliant features you can access with your Atom Home account. So I know lots of you will already be using Atom Home, so I'm sure you're familiar with a lot of these features. So when your child logs in, you'll have access to your Learn page and your child's unique exam prep plan. Now, with the exam prep plan, your child has individual targets based on their ability in each subject, the amount of time between now and their examination, and the amount of progress that they're making in each subject as well. Now, you should ensure that your child is meeting their target in each subject each week, as this is the most effective way to ensure that your child's 11 plus preparation stays on track. As I said, every question on Atom has a hint button, which has videos and help sheets attached. So if your child is feeling a little bit underconfident, they have guidance on the method they should be using to fill in any confidence or knowledge gaps that they have. And what's great about the platform is that it is marked immediately. So no feedback required from you as a parent. There'll be no marking required from you. So you can trust that your child is going to be making progress and getting feedback, which is so, so important for that learning process without the support of a parent or a tutor. So again, the independent practice on Atom will still facilitate really fantastic progress for your child. And again, you can feel confident that if you've submitted your child's target school, your child will only be seeing concepts that will be tested in the assessment itself. So you know that your child's time is never going to be wasted on the Atom platform. Now, from the testing page, this is where you can access online and downloadable tests. So again, if you submit your target school, you can see the specific test that your child will be sitting, and you can complete these tests either online, so assign it to your child's to-do list, or download it and complete it on paper. Now, that test will be available to download immediately. You'll get clear instructions similar to the real test. And again, the questions will mirror and the structure and difficulty of the real examination. And again, what's really important is with each downloadable test that you access, there is an answer sheet that mirrors the answer sheet of the real assessment. So just here. So your child has plenty of time to practice that crucial skill of filling in the answer sheet, and really so they know exactly what to expect in September. Now, via the track page, this is where you can access in-depth progress insights and the progress and the transcripts for the tests that your child has completed on Atom. So at a very high level, you can see your child's performance scores. So you can see how your child is performing in each subject. And below this, you can see the islands that they've covered that week, and you can review the questions that your child has answered as well. Now, click on a subject and you can gather much more in-depth insights. So here from the performance comparison table, you can see how your child is performing in comparison to students preparing for the same test. So you have a good idea of how much progress your child needs to make between now and your child's examination. Scrolling down further, you can see your child's exam curriculum progress section. So you can see how your child is performing in each individual topic area. So for example, if you've identified that your child needs to build confidence in English, they're working behind where they need to be, you can really pinpoint easily the specific concepts that they're doing very well in and those that they're finding more difficult, which could benefit from further revision. You can then target those areas of difficulty by clicking on this box next to the area of difficulty, start a practice, and you can create an activity that focuses on that very specific concept that your child is finding difficult. So again, you can trust Atom's exam prep plan to guide your child through the preparation that they need to do between now and September. But by setting a practice, you also have a really valuable revision tool at your fingertips as well. So if you do want to take a little bit more control and guide your child as well, you have that flexibility too. Now, the final thing that I want to highlight from the track page is the mock test transcript, because this really is a really valuable tool to help provide you with really valuable insights as a parent. So as I said, whether your child completes a test online or on paper, you will get a full transcript. So if your child completes a test on paper, you can submit the answers online. Atom will mark the test for you, and you'll then get a full transcript. Now, what's first of all really important is that your child will receive a standardized age score that is again calculated in the same way as a standardized age score will be in September. So it will look at your child's accuracy, their performance in comparison to their peers who've completed the same test, and is then standardized by age. So after each test, you have a really good idea of the score that your child would receive when they complete the real test in September. Scrolling down further, you can see your child's performance by topic. So you can see kind of how they're performing in each individual area and any key areas they may benefit from doing further practice in. Scrolling down further, and you can see a full transcript of questions answered correctly and incorrectly, along with explanations and the videos and help sheets for that particular topic. So again, whilst you're reviewing that transcript with your child, you have the opportunity to build their confidence, review the question, and hopefully ensure that they're feeling more confident with that question the next time they see it under test conditions. There are some additional helpful data points, so you can see if you've completed it online, how much time it took per question. But yes, it's a really valuable tool to identify not only building your child's confidence ahead of that test in September, but a great tool to help direct your revision over those kind of key months in the summer term as well. So that brings this evening's webinar to a close. So we'll be holding a second session on Thursday evening at 6:30 p.m. We'll be covering specific topics and question types that are covered in the 11 plus. So we'll be going at a little bit more granular level, so you know the specific question types your child will see in September. We'll then be looking at what to expect on exam day, how to make the most of those important paper tests. So I know we went over kind of a few tips and things that you can do at home to make sure every test is as valuable as possible, but we will be delving into paper test practice on Thursday. Practical tips to build test confidence, and there'll also be a Q&A. So if you do have burning questions that you would like answering in Thursday's session, do send us an email at support@atomlearning.co.uk and we'll be happy to help. We're going to do some digging on Facebook to make sure we don't experience the same technical issues we had this evening, so we hope to see you then. Also, for those of you who would like to get started on Atom Home, if you're not yet using Atom, you can register for a 5-day free trial, and please submit the discount code FBLive10 when you're going through the registration process to receive 10% off your first payment. I can now answer some of your questions. If you do have a question, do pop it in the Q&A box at the bottom of the screen, and I'll do my best to get through as many of them as possible. Let me take a look. Okay, there's one question here just on how to download a paper test. Yes. So if you from Atom Home, if you're using Atom Home already, navigate to the test section. And then if you click on the specific test you would like to download, click on this arrow just here, and then click on download. And you'll be able to download and print it quickly, immediately. And then there'll be instructions for how you can complete that test at home. I hope that's helpful. There's a question here about online teaching. Yes, so we do host some fantastic lessons by our brilliant in-house teachers and 11 plus experts during the holidays. We also record all of these lessons. So a great way to provide variety to your child's 11 plus preparation is that you can navigate to the the lesson library. And here you can access lessons that we have held on some of the most challenging 11 plus concepts. We have a search functionality, so you can search for any areas of the 11 plus syllabus that your child may be finding difficult. They can then go through this fantastic interactive session that's designed to really build their confidence. And again, it's a great way of providing some variety alongside the exam prep plan on Atom. Now, I would recommend if you do ask your child to complete one of these lessons, I'd recommend setting a custom practice with 10 to 15 questions afterwards so that you can really consolidate your child's learning and make sure they feel really confident applying that knowledge afterwards as well. Splendid. Well, those were, oh, there's another question coming through. There's a question here, is it too soon to start 11 plus preparation if my child is in year 4? That's a great question, a question we get really frequently. So what I would say is if your child is in year 4, it's not too soon. The reason being there is a huge amount of curriculum to cover ahead of when your child sits the test. For instance, in verbal reasoning, there are about kind of 50 different question types your child could see in verbal reasoning. In non-verbal reasoning, lots of different questions that your child won't have seen at school. But I say the most important thing is that because the question types and the curriculum is so challenging in English and maths, what's really crucial is that you're making sure that your child is getting as far ahead as possible and that they have a really strong foundation in English and maths before you maybe introduce reasoning in year 5. So what I'd say is if your child is currently in year 4, focus on English and maths now, and maybe in the summer term, start introducing them to reasoning, but really use the next few months to make sure that they are exceeding expectations in English and maths by the end of the academic year. So you're then in a position to kind of really confidently stretch and challenge them in year 5. There's a question here, how do you feel about working during summer, Easter, or Christmas holidays? It's a really good question. So it's first of all about balance. So it's so important that your child has a rest and a break over the holidays so they recharge after their busy term. But it is also a good opportunity to kind of do practice as well. And this isn't just for the 11 plus, it's also to make sure that your child isn't forgetting any of the work that they've done at school as well. So again, keeping any practice short and sweet. So 10 to 15 minutes of practice over maybe 4 or 5 days per week is really, will really support your child's long-term progress. And again, make sure they're retaining everything they've practiced at school. I'd say once your child gets into year 5, the holidays are actually a really good opportunity to do mock tests. Mock tests, I'd say, should be reserved for the weekend or in the holidays because that means that your child is probably going to be bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, and they'll be able to kind of answer the questions and really make the most of that test when they're completing it. So yeah, reserve them for the holidays, but again, really make sure that your child has a rest over the holidays as well. That is also really crucial. There's a question here, do schools provide all the materials needed for the 11 plus? So they'll provide your child with the question booklet and the answer booklet, but you will be asked to bring pencil, a clear pencil case, rubbers. They will have spares, but there will be kind of hundreds, potentially thousands of children sitting this test. They don't have resources for everybody. So you will be instructed to bring those resources with you. And your child can do their working out in the question booklet that's provided. But again, it's really crucial that when your child is submitting their answers, it's only on the answer booklet. And that should be as neat as possible to make sure that the computer can mark it accurately. Wonderful. Thank you all so much for your questions. And thank you all so much again for your time and your patience this evening. We're so sorry again for the inconvenience and frustration that must have been caused with the technical difficulties that we experienced on Facebook. I hope you all have a fantastic rest of your evening, and I look forward to speaking to lots of you again in the future. Again, if you have any questions following this evening's session, do send us an email to inquiries@atomlearning.co.uk and we'll be more than happy to help. Have a lovely rest of your evening, and I look forward to speaking to lots of you soon. Take care.